Sophie Cunningham is sticking with the Fever. The team just announcing they re-signed her. ESPN reporting she agreed to a one-year deal to return. This will be the Guard's second year with the Fever since being traded from the Mercury. Now, she only appeared in 30 games last season because of an injury, but she still finished fourth on the team in scoring.
WNBA fans are utterly shocked by Sophie Cunningham's recent choice. Before this offseason, the sniper had certain personal objectives: stability, financial security, and the capacity to settle down at last. Everything changed when Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever showed up. Major discussions about what athletes are willing to give up for championships are being sparked by what Cunningham gave up to run it back with the Fever. Please let me know if Sophie Cunningham made the right decision by giving up long-term stability to play with Caitlin Clark, or if she should have put earning money and moving somewhere else first.
The Fever at 3 p.m. Eastern and ABC Monday this series will be back in Oklahoma City.
Okay, so Sophie Cunningham recently rejoined the Indiana Fever, and that appears to be a simple move at first glance. The club with the greatest season in franchise history welcomes back a fan favorite. Lexi Hall, Caitlin Clark, and Cunningham have reunited as the trace is wonderful. Except when you examine the specifics of Cunningham's contract and her stated preferences for this offseason. This choice is far more difficult than it seems. Let's go back to what Cunningham stated on her podcast during the summer. Her expectations for her next deal were extremely clear. She wants stability in her finances. She desired a long-term agreement that would enable her to settle down, get a home, and have some stability in her life outside of basketball. For a 30-year-old professional athlete who has been competing in the WNBA for years, those objectives are very reasonable. Cunningham joined the league in 2019. She played for Phoenix for a while before settling in Indiana. She has shown herself to be a useful wing and three-point shooter who can play physical defense. Although she isn't a superstar, competing clubs need her kind of role player. She also hoped to cash in with a multi-year contract that would provide her with some financial security after years of demonstrating her value. She stated as much. She desired long-term security, a large contract, and the freedom to establish a life and settle down. Before she became a free agent, they were her declared objectives. She then agreed to a one-year contract with the Indiana Fever. 1 year, no big paycheck, no long-term stability, and no chance to purchase that house and settle down the way she claimed to want to. So what happened? Did Cunningham's desires suddenly change? Did she deliberately choose to give up her personal objectives in order to pursue a championship with Caitlin Clark and the Fever, or did no other teams offer her better deals? From what we know, it appears to be the latter. Fans are astonished by that.
Sophie back with Indiana on a one-year deal. That part of it is sort of interesting just because she had said on her podcast previously, I forget the exact wording, but basically the idea was that she wanted to be able to like settle down somewhere and feel cozy and wanted a big contract in that sense. So, a big contract I'm sure applies monetarily, but also maybe, annually as far as the years that are on it. But this is not that. So perhaps Sophie sacrificing that sort of security in order to run it back with the Fever. Of course, it's great for her career to play with the Indiana Fever, to play alongside Caitlin.
The incident was expertly explained by WNBA commentator Robin Lundberg. He drew attention to the fact that Cunningham had made it clear that she wanted to settle down and land a substantial contract, but she later signed a one-year contract with Indiana. According to his opinion, Cunningham is running it back with the Fever at the expense of that kind of security. And that's precisely how this appears. Cunningham is placing bets on both the Fever and her. She's betting that playing with Caitlin Clark for an additional year in Indiana during what might be a championship-caliber season will be more valuable in the long term than accepting a multi-year contract elsewhere. Perhaps she thinks she'll be able to demand a better deal the following year if the Fever have a fantastic season and she plays a significant part. Perhaps she simply prefers the chance to succeed and be a part of something unique above short-term financial stability. It's a sacrifice in either case. That cannot be avoided. Cunningham made it clear that she preferred short-term opportunity over long-term stability. It's not a critique. It's simply a fact. Additionally, It poses some intriguing queries concerning the sacrifices professional players are prepared to make in order to achieve team success. Let's discuss what Cunningham really forfeits by agreeing to a one-year contract. Above all, she is sacrificing her financial stability. With a one-year contract, she will return to free agency the following year, creating uncertainty. What happens if she sustains an injury this season? What happens if the Fever decides to change course? What happens if teams have less money to spend due to a change in the salary cap situation? By not securing a multi-year contract, Cunningham is incurring all of those actual risks. She's also giving up the opportunity to settle down the way she expressed a desire to. If you don't know where you'll be playing next year, you can't buy a house and establish roots. When your job position is uncertain for more than a year, you are unable to establish long-term plans. In order to pursue success with a fervor, Cunningham is effectively putting her personal life on hold for an additional year. This is when the irony starts. Let's be honest about this situation. Because Caitlin Clark is so alluring, Sophie Cunningham is compromising her own personal objectives. The chance to play alongside Clark on the WNBA's most-watched team and possibly contend for a title. For Cunningham, that is more valuable than stability and financial security. To be honest, that sums up Caitlin Clark's influence on the league. Cunningham is not a gawky newbie who is only thrilled to be in the company of a celebrity. She has years of experience in the league and is aware of her value. And she is still prepared to play with Clark for less money and less security. That is an example of the Caitlin Clark effect. Her orbit is what players want to be in. They are prepared to make sacrifices in order to be a part of what she is doing. Cunningham, Clark, and Lexi Hull's adoption of the Trace Letches moniker is more than just a nice social media fad. Three players who obviously love playing together are shown to have true chemistry and a connection. Paul recently resigned from the Fever, and it was evident that she wanted to run it back with this bunch. These participants are prepared to wager on one another and themselves because they have faith in what the Fever are doing. But let's not act as though friendship and vibes are the only things at stake. Here, Cunningham is taking a calculated risk. She is wagering that by playing alongside Caitlin Clark, she will become more well-known, more visible, and ultimately more valuable when she becomes a free agent again the following year. And you know what? Most likely, she is correct. Because of Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever are the WNBA's most-watched team. Every game is televised nationally. Every highlight is posted on social media. To see Clark play, fans who previously had little interest in the WNBA are now tuning in. Players like Cunningham and Hull are, consequently, receiving far more attention than they would if they were on any other league squad. There is value in that exposure. It converts into name recognition, social media followers, and sponsorship opportunities. A player's earning potential both on and off the court can be increased by all of those factors. Therefore, even though Cunningham is accepting a one-year contract today, she is setting herself up to perhaps earn more money next year if all goes as planned. Here's the danger, though. What happens if things don't go as planned? What happens if a championship isn't won by the Fever? What happens if Cunningham's shooting percentage declines or her job becomes less significant? What happens if she is hurt? All of those situations could reduce her market value and make it more difficult for her to secure the long-term agreement she initially desired. She is taking that risk. Age is another issue to take into account. Cunningham is 30 years old. By human standards, that is not elderly, but in WBA years, it is getting close. She doesn't have endless years left in her profession. Therefore, she is not making progress toward long-term financial security each year that she spends money on a short-term agreement. She will eventually have to cash in to secure that multi-year contract. The issue is whether she is leaving money on the table or if waiting another year is the best course of action. Let's now discuss what the Fever stands to gain from Cunningham's return. They are acquiring a seasoned three-point shooter who can provide space for Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark. They will have a strong defender who doesn't hesitate to take initiative and play physically. They're getting a seasoned player who understands her position and is productive without the ball. For a team aiming to win a championship, all of those things are extremely valuable. Because it makes teams respect her on the perimeter, Cunningham's shooting is especially crucial because it creates driving lanes for Clark and post touches for Boston. The Fever's attack will find it more difficult if opponents are able to sag off Cunningham and pack the paint. However, if Cunningham is making a lot of threes, defenders must take her into account, which gives everyone else more room. Her defense is also very important. Cunningham is prepared to make things difficult for the opposing team by guarding their top perimeter player. Although she isn't a top lockdown defender, she is tenacious, strong, and unflappable. If the Fever want to contend with clubs like Las Vegas, New York, and Connecticut, they must adopt that kind of defensive mindset. It is also impossible to ignore the chemistry component. It is evident that Cunningham, Clark, and Hull get along well both on and off the court. Together, they play well. They have good communication skills. They have faith in one another. It takes time to develop that kind of chemistry. Additionally, by allowing Cunningham to leave and attempting to find a replacement, the Fever would have been taking a chance. Therefore, it makes perfect sense for the Fever to sign Cunningham to a one-year contract. Without making a long-term financial commitment that would restrict their options in subsequent seasons, they receive a significant contribution. They've won. Opinions will vary on whether or not Cunningham has won. Some may argue that by placing a wager on herself and setting herself up for a larger payout the next year, Cunningham made a wise decision. Some may argue that by failing to secure long-term stability while she had the opportunity, she is taking an unwarranted risk. Both viewpoints are valid. We do know that Cunningham is deliberately choosing to put team success and victory ahead of his financial objectives. She made it clear that she preferred long-term security and opted for a one-year contract instead. That's a trade-off, and it's unclear if it will be worthwhile. The larger picture here is that players find these kinds of choices extremely challenging due to the WNBA's pay structure. When compared to other major sports leagues, the WNBA's maximum contracts are still very inexpensive. Unlike NBA or NFL players, even the top-paid athletes do not create generational riches. Therefore, every choice matters when role players like Cunningham are attempting to guarantee their financial futures and maximize their revenues. Because she believes in what the Fever are developing, Cunningham decided to return to Indiana on a one-year contract even though she could have signed a multi-year deal with more guaranteed money from another team. That is commendable. Fans are correct to be surprised that she's willing to make that sacrifice because it's hazardous. There will be a lot of anticipation for the upcoming season due to the Trace Letch's reunion. The synergy between Cunningham, Clark, and Hull is adored by fans. They adore the moniker. The on-court connection is something they adore. Additionally, reuniting that ensemble will generate excitement and increase ticket sales. Beneath all of that, though, Cunningham made a really human choice to prioritize team objectives over personal safety. That's it. In order to run it back with Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever on a one-year contract, Sophie Cunningham gave up her professed personal goals of stability and financial security. It remains to be seen if that risk pays off. Click like and subscribe to get complete coverage of the Fever's championship pursuit. Do you believe Cunningham made the correct decision or not?